All right. Now we are going to bring Scott Stevens in. Very, very excited for this. I can't tell you how excited I am.
You were so excited before the show started.
Scott, how are you, man?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We are good.
And ladies.
Yeah. Yes.
We are good. Very happy to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Of course, I loved you before you were doing all your writing and producing with the Exies.
Thanks, man.
We got to share a little story when I was trying to get you on the show about a show that was done in Pascagoula, Mississippi at Thunder's Tavern, where we had a gun pulled on us in the parking lot.
Yeah, I mean, literally, if you really, really think about that, it could have all ended.
Yep.
So easily. I mean, that guy was seconds away from open fire, man. I don't understand.
Yeah.
What I can't remember is how the police got there so quickly. It's like they were just around the corner.
Because they were.
Because they were.
Yeah.
It was Thunder's Tavern, and Thunder was in good with the police. I'm sure that he said, "Hey, we've got a good crowd. You might want to hang out a little close."
Right.
Because it didn't take long for them to pull into that parking lot.
I mean, it didn't take any time. I just remember everything kind of going in slow motion as I watched him pop his trunk and pull out this assault rifle. And I was like, wait, what's happening? And I looked over at Brad because I was in Brad's truck.
Right.
Listening to his next record. We were listening to Rough Mixes. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? And this guy has a thing and he's loading in the magazines, and all of a sudden the cops show up and it's all diffused. But that's a situation that no one ever wants to relive. And I actually hadn't thought of it until you.
Thanks.
You brought that bad memory back up to the
All
side.
right, way to go, Kev.
Yeah.
Kevin, bringing the reality
I didn't want to seem like some random dude messaging him. So I wanted to remind him of who I was if he remembered. But that was the only moment that I could think that would stick out in anybody's head of that night.
Yeah.
So
that's definitely a moment that you're never going to forget, especially when it's moving in slow-mo, life going before your eyes.
But Scott, I want to show this to you. I still have it. Here it comes.
Oh shit! Look at that. Oh, I think I have that too somewhere with all my laminates. Cool, man.
But yeah, that's my little claim to fame.
Nice.
So, but I love it.
It worked though. It worked.
The story should be more significant than that, because I don't think that happens to too many people.
No, it doesn't. So, but let's move on past that, and let's move on to where we're at now. Take us. So the Exies, I guess I don't want to say ended, but the Exies stopped putting music out. But then you just recently released some new stuff under the Exies. Tell me about that.
Well, like as you said, the Exies just kind of stopped. We never officially broke up. It just kind of, I don't know. We just kind of all took a break, and everybody started to do other things, and I got into writing and producing and learning Pro Tools and how to craft songs for other people, and that took years to come. I mean, this is what I do now, but it doesn't even matter how many songs I've written or how much success I've had. I think every new song is I'm just back at ground zero, and because they're all different. So, and it's a code to crack, and I never follow a formula, so it's always a challenge and a good challenge. But yeah, man, I mean, this last song that I put out, Spirits High, in January, was to commemorate the 20th anniversary of Inertia, which was our major label debut. And I just kind of wanted to put something back, out there. Look, people have been hitting me for years on various DMs for like, when some new stuff coming? Are you guys finished forever? That kind of a thing. And I never really knew what to say. And it wasn't until the year before that Chad Nicefield from the band Wilson, which I love those guys, and I produced their last record, and I did this song with them called Dump Truck, and he was the one that made me aware. And he said, "You've got like 300,000 people following the Exies," and I was like, how's that possible? And we haven't done anything in, at that time, I think 16, 17 years or something. And that kind of started me thinking, as well as what happened to all of us in COVID and the downtime. And, I started to feel really boxed in, and I started to kind of write these diary songs that were kind of coping mechanisms to help me get through this shit. And, they started to form, and there was a batch of them. There was like 5 or 6, and Spirits High was the first one that I completed, and it felt kind of optimistic because of the situation that we were all in, but yet a little bit like, what the fuck, I don't know really how to proceed with my life, because I've never been taught how to, live at home 24/7 with somebody and, never go anywhere. So
right.
it became an adjustment period, and it kind of went into that song. And when I was done, I figured, what, the 20th anniversary is coming up. My band wanted to do something on the 10th anniversary, and I just didn't want to do it. I was too busy producing, and I was too busy writing with other people, and I felt kind of bad about that, so I wanted to make up for it. I wanted to make some amends and say hey guys, I got this idea, you want to flush it out, and let's figure it out. And nobody really wanted to kind of really jump back into that pond yet, because everybody moved on in their life, and Freddie's in Everclear, and Dennis, my drummer, is a senior VP at Universal for catalogs and works with Paul McCartney and people like that. And I just took it upon myself to kind of finish the song in the best way that I felt like represented everybody in the band and what they would normally play, because I spent so much time with them. This is what Freddie would do, and this is what Dennis would do, and this is what David would do, and kind of just was patient. And it took me 2 years of, messing with it so that it would be something, and when I was done, I was like, well, let's just see what happens, and maybe people will like it. And it was received really well by the fans, and it's very encouraging to, think about doing more because of that. So I didn't really realize that I had needed that after working with, Halestorm and Shinedown and Nothing More, and Johnny Stevens from Highly Suspect, and all these people that I've worked with, Skillet, and it felt good to have my voice again, I guess, and to say something that I felt. And some people seem to be relating to it, so I guess that's as good as it gets.
Well, if you'll do us the pleasure, I'd like to play a little bit of the lyric video, if that's okay, so people watching can hear some of the newest stuff from you. So here you go, guys. It's Spirits High. It's the Exies. Check it out. You're watching this out. Well, I will say that you definitely nailed that Exies sound.
Hey,
you definitely nailed that.
Thanks, man.
That was good. That was really good, man. That's killer.
Thank you.
Maybe came from a little bit of a dark place during the lockup. Is that what that was?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's you're always how whether you're a spiritual person or whatever it is, religious, this or that, you're always supposed to kind of be where you are, and I'm contemplating that when COVID was shut down. Not just me, it was everybody I knew, my sister, my brother, my family, my mother, my father, and everybody trying to cope with what is this new reality, this new existence. And I mean, is this where I'm supposed to be right now? And that kind of, I guess that maybe a sullen optimism like this sucks, but I'm optimistic that we're gonna get through it, and that's kind of where it all sprung from, you know, just my own insecurities. And like I said, I didn't ever meant for that song to come out. It was more of like a diary coping mechanism, and it just seemed to keep developing, and the lyrics just seemed to be, you know, so blunt. And I finally started to make peace with it and go, I wonder if there's other people that feel the way I do here. I mean, there's got to be, you know. And before I knew it, I had the song, and there it is, and I put it out, and I hope you feel something. I hope you see yourself in it somewhere, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Did I hear you right though? Did the other guys chime in on that, or you kind of like tried to emulate what you thought they would have done? Was that song?
Yeah, that was me just trying to emulate what everybody might do, because like I said, I reached out to David, who's no longer with us. You know, he passed, and I had spoken to him the year before and said, I have this song that's kind of like unfinished, and I think the fans that were with us back in the day, that they might like it, you know. And he didn't really want to rehash the past, and I, you know, so I didn't push. And I think I took that as a sign, is that everybody's kind of moved on, and you know what, I'll just do this because I'll do it for the sake of doing it. And there it is. But you know, I was with those guys for 13 years of my life, so I feel like I know their styles, I know how they perceive music, and it was fun, even though it was kind of it wasn't easy doing that, because I hadn't even sang a song in, I don't know, 15 years, 16 years. So finding, you know, that voice again and doing it was no easy task. I think I quit like twice and cursed the world.
Yeah, that's how you know it's working. Yeah, fuck this, I'm not doing
fuck
it.
This fucking thing. Yeah, you know, and
you're on to something. Yeah,
maybe.
What
secret? You gotta hate it. I don't know.
What was it like? Kevin and I were mentioned at the beginning of the show, and I was actually looking it up too before we went live, like all the stuff that you've been a part of. What's it like writing for other people or with other people versus doing something for yourself? That seems kind of more difficult, I would think, depending on where you're at in the game. Like, you know, are you going from no idea with these people to a finished song, or are they bringing stuff into you as well? Like, can you paint that picture for us?
Yeah, I mean, it really has no set way that it gets done. You know, when I work with like Lizzie, like she and I will, before a record cycle starts, you know, we'll start texting each other, and we'll share a note. I'm sharing a note like right now with Lilith Czar and Dorothy too, because I'm like, I want to know like what you're thinking about, and like, you know, what inspires you? What, you know, is there a title? Is there a, you know, is it a song? Is it a TV show? Is it something that somebody said, or is it a quote, or, you know, that kind of a thing? And once you kind of get enough of that information kind of going, you know, I always have to kind of like perceive, you know, how they sound to me. And then I just have to be like bold and say, you know, this is how I think that this feels like a Halestormy riff. Like, what do you think? And then she'll either say yeah, or she'll say no, you know, and, you know, it's kind of hit or miss. And sometimes, you know, she and I have had a really great partnership over the years. And, you know, we have a lot of songs that nobody's ever heard that kind of suck, you know, but then there's good songs, you know, like Miss the Misery and Miss Hyde and Apocalyptic and Back from the Dead and The Steeple and, you know, all Terrible Things, and, you know, those songs, but there's
named off my Spotify playlist. Huh? I said, it seems like you just named off my Spotify playlist.
You know, so, you know, with every artist, it's different. And it took me a while, because I was in a band, and I, you know, was just writing for myself. And I actually kind of got a little bit of a schooling in writing for others when I didn't know that it was happening. I was on tour with Motley Crue in 2005, and I started writing songs backstage on days off with Nikki, and started demoing them on Tommy Lee's bus. And those songs turned into 6 a.m. songs with James Michaels. Okay. And James Michaels was my producer for my last Exies record. And so it became this kind of like weird incestual kind of, we don't really realize what we're doing, but we kind of formed this little tribe, and we started to, write what would be 6 a.m., some of the starts for those songs. And that's where I got my first like taste of what it's like to write for somebody else. And even though I always put myself in there, because I feel like it's something I have to feel too, and something that hopefully that they feel, or if they're coming at me, then I have to assimilate and get into what they're feeling. Like Lizzie will say, I want to write a song about us coming together like a church of rock and roll, and then we write the steeple. This idea comes like out of her head, and I'm like, okay, I got to figure out how to contribute to what she wants. And it just comes through practice. It's like anything, you just got to do it a lot. And there's a period right now. I'm going to produce a new Dorothy record that's, we haven't even started yet, but like the preliminary notes and the preliminary, she and I are on the phone every week, and we're talking about things she's into, and where do we want to take it, and what do we want to take chances on, and what do we know we need, to do. And it's those kinds of, building blocks that make it all kind of happen. And there's no one like, this is how it's done. It's a bunch of different little things that I have to corral, and I'm in the service business. I have to help Lizzie and Dorothy and Johnny and Brent Smith and people realize what they want to do. And I got to support it. And sometimes I'm lucky enough to come in with, I got an idea. It's called Back from the Dead. What do you think? And she's like, I love it. And then there we go, and we work on it, and How Did You Love with Shinedown, and like Brent and I talked about what that meant and the philosophy behind it. And, those are all magical moments that the public doesn't really get to see, but that's how the songs are born, and it's conversations, and it's openness, and taking chances and daring to suck.
Yeah. That's the beauty of music, though. The whole process of it, man.
Yeah,
for sure.
It is definitely.
Sure.
Go ahead, Matt.
With working with all these, big artists like Lizzie and Shinedown and stuff, and you're working on these tracks, does it light an inner fire in yourself to want to be back out on that stage?
I'm not gonna lie, yeah.
He's like, fuck yeah.
I remember we had a song called Ugly that did pretty well at radio. I think it got top 5, and I remember we played in Kansas City, and it was like 40,000 people or something, and they were singing that song back to me, and that was the greatest rush I'd ever
drug
in my life.
As soon as you brought it up, the first thing that popped in my head is, Are You Ugly Like Me? And I'm like, God, that song was so good.
I was listening to it. I got it pulled up right here. I was listening to it before I hopped in with y'all. Yeah.
Thanks, man. Yeah. And that was just that one. I remember the first time was at BuzzFest, and we played, I think, at 2:00 in the afternoon, which is not great, as like nobody's really, but it was packed. And when nobody stood up, everybody was kind of disinterested. Yeah, cool. When we launched into that song, everybody stood up, and I kind of lost my shit. I just I got overwhelmed, and I didn't cry or anything, but I couldn't do anything. I was just like, what's happening? And I realized that I had been playing the chord progression like for 8 bars. And finally, like, my guitar player looked at me and was like, fucking go into the song already.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man. I mean, once you feel that, sure, I miss it. But I love it when I can stand side stage and watch a band I've worked with perform a song that we wrote together and see people giving it back. I mean, it's amazing. It's unbelievable.
that's, you know, I've never been top 5 on Billboard, but you know, writing songs, like people that don't do that, you don't realize like there is that other feeling too. It's probably not 40,000 people singing your song back, but when you go from that first idea to finished song, listening back to it with a good mix, there's a feeling there too. That's like watching, you know, it's like your baby was just born, you know, and you get to hear it. So there is that. So I understand what you're doing there with producing with other people. Like I can relate to that for sure.
Yeah, man. The minute that it does what you just said, Jared, is like you realize it's not yours anymore.
Yeah.
It's going to be everybody's now. And that's a weird fucking situation right there. You're like, I got to let it go. It's kind of letting a parent letting a kid leave home or something. Like, look, that's way more significant, of course, you know, parents.
Right.
But it's like
an analogy. It's an analogy
version of that. This is something you've crafted, and who knows, like sometimes you're working on shit for 5 months and then or it sits for a year. Like that Spirits High song was like 2.5 years, and all of a sudden it's out. And I was really, really nervous 24 hours before that. And then I think we heard from Denmark and like Italy, and people were digging it. And I was like, this is blowing my mind, you know? And then you feel, you know, elated and you feel relieved, and, you know, it's done. It's done.
I mean, but I think though, from the fan perspective, I'm a huge Shinedown fan, and How Do You Love's one of my favorite tracks by them. So as a fan, when I'm standing out there at my umpteenth Shinedown show, singing that song back, I mean, your lyrics, those words literally transform people's lives. Whether you realize it or not, you're transforming somebody's life. You are bringing them from maybe way down here to way up here. You're making them think things out in a different perspective, you know? So I think from a fan perspective, it's also important to hear what good that's doing for other people as well.
Thank you so much. I you know, whether I'm starting something myself or starting something with a co-write, it always starts in a real personal level, and I need it just like you need it. I need it too, to get through whatever I'm going through and whatever struggles I might be facing at that time. And it's medicine. It really is. And I feel very lucky that I'm able to work with such talented people, and to have started out in the business from that perspective of the stage, you know, and be able to like understand what it is to be in the audience, because I'm eternally a fan forever. I mean, I'm the guy I just want to do that, you know, and I just want to relate to the lyric, and I don't care if I wrote it or not, or had a hand in it or not. When it hits, like when I heard Second Chance by Shinedown, I was just like, fuck, you know, and it really hit a chord with me. And I was just like, damn, man, that is just the best fucking song. And it just has the right thing. And, you know, you want to make your parents proud, and not everybody does, but, you know, a lot of people do. And that one just hit me, you know, like countless others. So.
Wow. I mean, do you have a favorite that you've worked on, or do you have a story about one that maybe was so challenging that it almost didn't make it, but then it did?
Jeez, there's lots of them.
all of them. Yeah,
a
right.
Favorite one.
Oh my God. I don't think I have a favorite. I will say one of the toughest songs, the initial things that happened quickly, but the refining of This Is the Time, nothing more, was really challenging to the point where you're like, you guys just got to go off and write the bridge without me, because we can't seem to make it work. And they did. Those guys are kind of muso-y, you know, like they're very good on their instruments, and they wanted something more than what we were doing in that moment. But just getting all the lyrics right, and getting the chorus to be right, and the pre-chorus, and just everything from the arrangement to be what you know it as, was, I think it was like 5 sessions or 6 sessions, and then a break, and then more sessions, and then evaluating the bridge. Do you like this? No, I don't like that. Let's try this. I mean, it had to be 8 to 10 sessions to make that song work. So that's probably the longest one.
Wow. Well, thank you for that. That's my favorite song. Whenever I go to see Nothing More, and I hear those opening, the opening notes of that song, I'm like, yes. The whole crowd goes absolutely manic for that song. So
of course I went manic. They came in with the riff, and it was called "Walking Blind." That was the name of the song.
Okay,
and
makes sense.
And we were like, okay. And I remember the hook just went "walking blind" like that. And I think I was the one who went "walking blind." Like I said, I think I was like, what would Serge do from System? He would do something weird, And we took the note up, and that's what it was called for the longest time. And then after the bridge was written, the music of the bridge was written without me. I think Johnny changed it to "This Is the Time." And it's great, man. So.
Those little stories like that, though, knowing those stories behind songs, that's fucking cool to me too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you get a different perspective than everybody else. So sharing them here today, like people will know that now. That's awesome.
Cool. Right. Next time I go to see Shinedown or Nothing More, I'll have a little bit,
it's like that little,
right? Yeah. It
exactly.
changes the way you look at the song a little bit, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
It does. I mean, I did "How Did You Love" right in this room, and my microphone is right there. And I remember that Brent was like sitting over here as I was kind of playing the piano. I just had the piano and I was kind of humming some stuff, and we didn't really have much. And all of a sudden he just goes like this, and he just comes up and he's like, "Okay, let's go," and he sat right here and we just worked on it. And that song, like 2 days, we were done. And he was on that mic cutting. And I think the demo was the final vocal. When I turned it into, it was like, I don't have any changes. Let's just go and track the band now. Let's figure out, like, everybody's got to put their parts on it. And so I was chosen to produce it. And, everybody came in, and, Zach and Barry and Eric, and they all did their thing. And then I came back here and I put it all together. That was a tough one too. That was 27 mixes to get it to where you know it.
Wow.
27 mix passes.
Jesus.
That's a
wow.
Oh my gosh. I mean, write a book, please.
Yeah,
I want to read it.
You could.
I want to read it from front to back. Don't leave anything out. I know it probably is going to take you at least a decade.
It probably could take me 5 years.
Yeah.
But those moments are so great. They're so special. And everybody's so raw in those moments too. And everybody's just like, sure, Lizzie's up there, she's in her stilettos and she's killing it. But there's like these vulnerable moments that we're all just like trying to figure out what it is, and get inside each other's heart and our head and make something happen, and ultimately they're the vehicle. They're the ones that do this. And I'm just trying to help them with their ideas and, make it as real as possible, because they're the ones that have to translate this out there to everybody like you and me, If I sang Back from the Dead, it would sound stupid, but Lizzie does it and it's like, wow, it's awesome, and it's amazing, because she knows what she's doing. She knows who she is and what she wants. And
she has a way to express her style of emotion through her style of vocal. You know what I mean? And you do the same with yours, just in a different way.
Yeah. I could sing her something and then she just Lizziefies it, just like she just does it, and and it comes out magical.
Wow. What a career.
So
what a life.
I think the takeaway here is write the book. That's
right.
Write that book.
Okay.
How did the Four Horsemen come to be?
That's a good story too. Okay, so I believe I'm going to try to get this right. Okay, so before I really became a songwriter, and I was in a band and I was transitioning out of being in the band, I met two guys at a Super Bowl party that said they liked my band, and we were just talking, and they were like, "Do you want to do a co-write with us? We're doing a record, and this guy named Marty Fredrickson's producing it." I was like, "I heard of Marty. I know he's done like Def Leppard, and he's done like Mick Jagger, and Tina Turner, and freaking legends and stuff like that." And he's like, "Yeah, come over, next weekend." And so I did, and that's when I met Marty. And that was kind of like my first foray into writing, producing without any help from anybody else. And it didn't come out very good, but you got to try, you got to start. And so Zach Malloy, who's another horseman, his very first co-write was with Marty Fredrickson. My first co-write outside of being in a band ever was with Zach Malloy. He's in a band called the Nixons. And Blair Daly, who's the other horseman, he's death. He's death. Zach is famine. I'm conquest, and Marty is war. And Blair I knew from James Michaels, because he'd written with James for some of the 6 a.m. stuff and Kelly Clarkson songs, and songs like some country stuff and like Uncle Cracker and this and that. So he was like an association. I didn't really know him until we really started to get together, but we all kind of knew each other from these pockets. And oddly, 4 years ago, I bought a house in Nashville, and I had Zach and Blair come over to help me like christen my little writing studio, which kind of looks like this place, but it's a little bigger because the house there's bigger. But we christened the studio with a writing session and had a beer and this and that. And in that time we were hanging out, somebody said, my publishing deal's up, and in like October or something. And so this was August. And I said, oh yeah, mine's going to be up too in November. And Zach was like, I'm out of mine next month. And I said, God, wouldn't it be funny if we formed a little like publishing writing entity? Because we've all kind of written together, or inadvertently we've done things on projects with other producers, and our songs are on these records. And Marty had a pool party that Sunday. This was on a Friday. And I remember texting Zach, and Zach texted Blair and said, let's all go to Marty's pool party on Sunday. So we went, and we were kind of sitting around, and Marty, he didn't have a publishing deal. He didn't really want one. He's a very self-contained writer, producer, and has already made his millions. So I made a joke, and I said, hey, what do you think about like the 4 of us getting together to become a writing producing team, and we'll call ourselves the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse? And Zach took it really serious, whereas none of us kind of did. And I forgot about it for like 2 weeks. And Zach called me when I was back in LA and said, remember that joke you made? 4 Horsemen, da da da. I think there's something to it. And I think we should put together a one sheet of what it would be and what we're looking for and who would pay for this and da da da. And about a month went by, kind of was like cold. And then he kept on poking everybody, and we started to kind of talk about it more. And before I knew it, we had a one sheet with a dollar amount, and what each of us had done. And it was kind of like, let's send it out. And we sent it out, and it was crickets for a minute. And then I think BMG was the first one. It was Will Hoffman, who manages Nothing More. And he was like, I really like this concept, so tell me about it. And I was like, well, this is how we'll do it, and blah, 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 blah. And he took it to some head at, in New York. And they were like, yeah, I don't know, rock, it's hard to make a buck, blah, blah, blah. But Will was like, yeah, but these guys are on everybody's records, and we should try this thing. And so they passed. And another month went by, and a guy named Josh Gruss, who owns Roundhill Publishing, contacted Marty. He was a friend of Marty's. He had been floating around Nashville, this one sheet. And he's like, I want to do that. You're a part of this 4 Horsemen thing. Let's have a meeting. So we had a meeting, and he's like, I'm all in. Let's go. And he funded us, and we built it, and we made T-shirts, and we just started it, And I think the very first cut we got wasn't all of us. It was just Zach. It was a COVID song by Shinedown. Help me. Atlas Falls, which was off of the Amaryllis record. And that kind of kickstarted things. And Josh was like, whoa, we already have a song. He's like, yeah, but this was published by somebody else, so you don't get the publishing on this one. But, you know, it wasn't soon after that like, you know, Halestorm started to happen, and Aaron started to happen, and Dorothy started to happen, and these things. And before we knew it, we had figured out how to kind of work together, who did what, who took the production responsibilities, who took the writing, you know, maybe like all four of us on a writing, or two of you, and then the two of us that are producing it kind of hone it and finish it, and how to divide that up and make it fair for the artists so that they still get money on their publishing side. And it became a well-oiled machine after about a year. And I think we had 7 number ones within the last 2.5 years. And, you know, I don't even know, 20 top 10s maybe. So it just, and
worked out for the other guy, didn't it?
Yeah. And we all know each other. We've all been in the business so long, and everybody does a little bit something different. And so we lean on each other. And, you know, the whole new Aaron Jones record, Marty and I produced it, and the Four Horsemen wrote it with Aaron, and Aaron wrote some songs himself, of course, but like, that's a perfect example. And then, you know, Rest in Peace is a Four Horsemen song from Dorothy and Black Sheep. And, you know, the Halestorm record was just me with Lizzie, but, you know, Dead Don't Die is Zach and Blair and Brent and those guys, you know. And so we just kind of interchange, and we just go where we're needed, and nobody gets butthurt if they're not on a song. And it just, we contribute where we can. And, you know, we're at like, I think 6 or 7 billion streams together with all of our stuff. It's pretty cool.
Congratulations, man. That's an accomplishment.
Yeah. Wow.
Thank you.
What an achievement.
I couldn't do it without them, you know, like team, man, is everything.
Right.
Like this is all of us, you know, making this work. So, you know, no man, no woman is an island. And it really, I never thought something like this would be possible. I think I kind of wanted it to be, but it's amazing to be able to have people to work with like this, you know.
Scott, we could talk for hours with you, man. I know I could for sure. I got 1,000 more questions, but I think we got Molly waiting.
Yeah, we do.
I do want to say one thing though, to piggyback on that. We have a magazine that we're starting in August. It's digital first, and then we're going to see where it goes, whether it goes to print. But we would love to pick your brain on some music stuff, insider stuff, publishing, and you know, just everything, man. If it's something you could be into, we could shoot you some emails.
Absolutely. I'll help you guys out with anything you want, you know.
That would be great. That would be
great.
Maybe
we should do a thing too in the future where we get the Four Horsemen on here, and you guys will have just dedicate. I mean, there's so many hours of stories from Shinedown to Mick Jagger. I mean, it's like,
we will give you the whole hour.
I just got goosebumps. You just tell me when.
Yeah, really. I mean, you get your guys lined up, and we will be digitally there. So we're in. Because I can listen to those stories for days, man. For real. Like,
great. I love that.
I'll make sure I have a word processor or something nearby where I can type as quickly as you talk.
The court reporter.
Right?
No, it's all recorded. That's the beauty of the internet, baby.
Well, I'll just transcribe, right?
Yeah. It's 2023.
Yeah, it is. Thank God.
Thank you so much for being on here. I'm glad that y'all didn't get shot that night, but I'm glad, Kevin, y'all have that story to remember.
Yeah, I'm glad, Kevin. I mean, amazing. Thank you for reminding me of that, and how blessed it is to feel alive after something like that.
Right.
Yeah. And here we are talking all these years later. And thanks for playing the lyric video. I really, really appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Absolutely. No, I love it. Love it.
Yeah. Thank you for being here.
Yeah. Look, I'll send you a message. We'll figure out how to do this again because we're down.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, Kevin, Jared, Matt, Lisa, thank you so much. And looking forward to the next one. You guys
man, pleasure was ours. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
All right. Take care.